And we're here with a GHH sessions where we bring in the experts, really give you that micro analyzation of some of the things going on in the culture. Today we have criminal defense lawyer Brandon Ball, also offline a good brother, friend of mine. And hey, it's a pleasure to have you here, man.
Hey, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. I like what y'all doing.
No, most definitely. I like what you're doing too, because not only do you practice law in your field, but you give us that great insight, through social media, and you always have a pointer. I actually learned what we're about to talk about from your IG story, which is that they do have a trial date now set for Ahmaud Aubrey, and you were saying that'll be on October 18th.
Yeah, October 18th.
Okay. I know they're totally unrelated, but do you feel like what happened with the verdict in the Derek Chauvin trial will have any impact potentially on that trial with them?
Are you asking like if the jurors might try to push back against that, or
if it'll be kind of more like, more almost as if like a guilty verdict is the morally kind of right disposition. I feel like people kind of went into the George Floyd trial feeling like, hey, there's no way around this. And I was wondering if that spirit might, still kind of be in the air in regards to where we're at right now in the country as far as racial relations.
I definitely think that spirit's still in the air, especially in that case, because that's a case that didn't involve law enforcement. It involved civilians acting like they were law enforcement, and then just as many people who saw the George Floyd tape, they saw the Ahmaud Aubrey tape, right? And they saw what happened and they heard about it, right? So I think that spirit is still there.
So
regarding that,
with them, the charged not being affiliated with law enforcement, I guess easier isn't the word, but I guess is there a less of a burden of things to prove with it being a civilian? Basically like a civilian homicide versus like a police killing.
So what I've seen in cases where people try to take the law in their own hands and act in place of law enforcement, and the things that I've seen, the cases that I've witnessed, haven't really seen much success in that in that arena. So like the defendants in that case, the three guys trying to say, because they changed their story up a couple times, but the father and son has kind of kept their story the same. It's the third guy, okay, who's got dragged into it as well. And initially he was just trying to put it on the father and son. But I think it's going to be a tougher case for them, right? Because law enforcement have that, it's the way it is in America. People give law enforcement the benefit of the doubt. Now, since George Floyd, that's starting to change a little bit. Mm-hmm. Right? People starting to see what we all knew the whole time. But as a lawyer, I can actually talk about it and make decisions about it when I'm picking a jury, right? So when you look at these people, these defendants in this case, to your point, I think it's going to be more of an uphill burden because, again, they're not cops. They went out their way. They were being, quote, unquote, extra about it, right? And it caused somebody being murdered.
Will like all three of them be charged together, or will it be separate? I mean, will it be like a separate, each one basically a verdict for their role, or is it like I don't know, are all three of them on the same?
So from everything it looks like, they'll be in trial together, but they each individually have to be found guilty or not guilty. Okay. So one person being found guilty doesn't necessarily mean the second person be found guilty, right? But more than likely, with their actions being in concert, if one person was found guilty, more than likely the other people will be found guilty. Okay.
And one thing we did with the George Floyd, when I was talking to Attorney Darrell Austin, we always try to take an objective look and take a look from both sides. Not that we support the other side, but just what are some strategies do you maybe foresee their legal counsel the picture that you foresee them trying to paint the defense of the three accused?
Operating on the belief that they thought he was a person who had just burglarized the home, right? That's been their story. I thought he was in these homes. We had report that somebody had burglarized his house. We saw this guy running. We thought that was a person, and so we were just trying to stop him. At that point, when we tried to stop him, he came at us, and then it became a defense situation. We were trying to defend ourselves.
Wow, it's amazing to me how that self-defense spin can just be put on things. Because would this pretty much be kind of the same archetype of a case as the Zimmerman Trayvon case?
It's a little different. Well, obviously it's a different state. That was Florida. This is Georgia. There's some similarities because, again, in Zimmerman's situation, he went out his way, and 911 told him, "Hey, don't do anything. Stay right here," and he still took it upon himself to go forward. So from that standpoint of them going out their way, there's some similarities, but the belief that they're going to run into issues, the defendants in this case, they're going to run into more issues because I'm pretty sure the state's going to bring out that it wasn't reasonable for you to think that he had burglarized the home. What reports are you talking about? What did you hear? Where's that information that you're saying you based that off on?
I know that Georgia, we're talking about different states, so the laws probably aren't exactly the same. But I guess one of the things that's kind of intriguing to me is like, at what point do you lose the right? Okay, if I see somebody and I believe someone is breaking in a home, and I have a weapon, and I'm, I guess, standing my ground, and then someone says no, don't, someone on the phone says not to follow them, not to pursue. At what point am I breaking the law?
So, big answer then small answer. Big answer, it varies state to state because the laws regarding standing your ground vary state to state, right? It could be argued, looking at the Zimmerman situation, that because he was affirmatively told by 911 operators not to do anything, that he could have been breaking the law. But they were able to overcome that burden, right? They were able to overcome that. So that's why we literally go to trial, right? Because in one case, it could be seen as based off the facts that this person is breaking the law. In another case, same set of facts, based off how the argument is made, it could be seen the person wasn't because of their perception, because of what was going on at the time. So that's literally why people go to trial, to argue that. Just because you have a dead body doesn't mean it's a murder. All right?
Okay. And one other thing, like why was the George Floyd case seemed like almost expedited? It seemed like that in the police brutality documented history, that seemed like the most efficient act to verdict that I've seen versus like I think we're going on two and a half years since. I know that was before the pandemic, and that was the actual death of Ahmaud Aubrey.
No, Ahmaud Aubrey was when the pandemic had just kicked off.
Oh, that was just a little more than a year ago.
Yeah, that's what made it a crazy spring, And then you had George Floyd's situation.
Wow, because I remember I think it was run 1.2 miles that night, and it was in his commemoration.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Okay, well,
but no, you asked about. It seemed like it was quick. I thought that as well. I couldn't believe how quick that trial went from incident to actual trial. Usually, when it comes to cases like that, murder case or high-profile felony, or just a complicated felony where there's a lot of moving pieces involved and a lot of things at stake, they take a long time. Especially with the pandemic. But some states, not Texas, have laws where cases have to go at a certain amount of time. I'm not sure that was the case in Minnesota. I think they just were ready to go in that case and it went forward. But usually you don't see cases go that quickly.
And do you think like in Georgia, I know a lot of people kind of credited what happened in Minnesota also to the district attorney and basically some diversity that they had and some people who actually wanted things to move forward. Do you think the role of the Georgia whoever prosecute and their will to convict is going to have a role on whether I don't know whether we see the type of trial that we saw with George Floyd?
I think it's on a good track because initially the DA that was over the case The investigation was stalling, wasn't going anywhere. Another district attorney took it over and investigated the case and started moving it, right? So I think if we look at that, I think obviously they want to prosecute the case, but I think it's a good sign that they'll have all their ducks in a row by the time the case is ready to go to trial.
Okay. Well, that's what's going on with Ahmaud Aubrey.
If you're watching this on YouTube, man, hey, y'all, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. This is Gentleman's History Hour.